Hello there and welcome to VOP Politics right here on VOP TV. My name is Esther Atiku. On VOP Politics, we discuss and analyze trending issues in the political arena as well as other sectors that impact daily existence. Now, before we proceed, let's take a news overview on issues across the polity. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, today spoke on the discrepancies in his senior school certificate examination. Now, one of the aides of the former Vice President, Dele Momodu, gave the clarification in a post on X, formerly known as Twitter. Momodu stated that the clarification was necessary following allegations of forgery against Atiku by members of the All Progressives Congress. He noted that some members of the ruling party had questioned the name Sadiq Abubakar in Atiku's WAEC certificate as against his other credentials. Momodu said he forwarded the accusations to the former vice president, who also provided an answer for the discrepancy. Meanwhile, the Minister of Sports and Youth during ex-President Muhammadu Buhari's first-term administration, Solomon Dalong, has revealed why he posted his academic records on social media. Dalong took to X, formerly known as Twitter, on Saturday to post his 1990 West African Education Council certificate of call to the bar, as well as his Bachelor of Law and Master of Law certificates, both from the University of Jos. He wrote, and quote, "I am an alumnus of the University of Jos, Nigeria. I surrender my academic records for public scrutiny," end quote. Some had interpreted his post on his social media space as a reference to the controversy over President Bola Tinubu's academic records. The former minister, however, on Tuesday shed light on the social media post while speaking on a Monitor television program. The lawyer stated that though he had respect for Tinubu and was not mocking him over the certificate issue, he believed the president's team not only mismanaged the issue, but inadvertently exacerbated the problem. Still on Solomon Dalong, who was the Minister of Youth and Sports during the first term of ex-President Muhammadu Buhari, earlier today said the withdrawal of the ministerial nomination of Mariam Shettima, also called Shetty, has shown that cabals still exist in the administration of President Bola Tinubu. Dalong made this claim today while speaking on a Monitor television program. Now, VOP Politics recalls that Shetty, who is from Kano State, saw her name removed from the ministerial nominees list submitted to the Senate and replaced with that of Mariam Mahmood. According to Dalong, the cabals that worked against his return during the second term of Buhari's administration worked against Shetty's nomination. He said, and I quote, "Even now, there is a cabal in Tinubu's government and they will always exist. They are a group of ambitious people with different ambitions within the power base set to look like they actually exist to hijack power and protect their interests." He was a ministerial nominee from Kano State and found her name in the list and was told that she isn't on the list upon confirmation. When asked if he would like to serve under President Tinubu, Dalong said, on the condition that they would not padlock this mouth. Elsewhere, the Bayelsa State chapter of the All Progressives Congress has revealed its next step after the sack of its governorship candidate, Chief Timothy Silva. You'll recall that Justice Donatus Okorowo of the Federal High Court, Abuja, on Monday disqualified Silva from contesting in the forthcoming November governorship elections in the state. The High Court judge in his judgment held that Silva's contest in the election was a breach of the 1999 Constitution as amended because he had been sworn in twice and ruled for 5 years as governor of Bayelsa. Reading the judgment, the Director, Media and Publicity, APC, Bayelsa Gubernatorial Campaign Council, Perry Tukaway, said the party would appeal the judgment. Tukaway, in a statement earlier today, being October 10 in Yenagoa, said, and quote, "The party has briefed its lawyers to appeal the judgment, and it is confident that the Court of Appeal will overturn the judgment of the Federal High Court." This reassurance is a reaction to a judgment which has the People's Democratic Party and its candidate written all over it by a Federal High Court in Abuja in an already failed bid to dash the hopes of Bayelsa people to have their preferred candidates. Chief Timothy Silva is the next helmsman at Creek Haven by February 14, 2024. Speaking further, the APC chieftain said the suit was contrary to a directive by the Supreme Court that all pre-election matters be heard in the state where party primaries were held. Meanwhile, the former Minister for Petroleum, Timothy Silva, has eventually appealed at the Federal High Court ruling disqualified him from the November 11 governorship elections in Bayelsa State. Silva filed his notice of appeal on Tuesday, October 10. He faulted the judgment by Justice Donatus Okorowo and urged the court to set it aside and uphold his nomination. Silva also filed an application seeking VOP politics. Now, to meet Silva, the All Progressives Congress candidate has been disqualified from the Bayelsa State governorship election. The Federal High Court's decision to disqualify him was based on several compelling reasons. Here are the top 5 reasons behind his disqualification. Number 1, exceeding constitutional term limits. That is one basic issue that was highlighted. Silva, as you do know, had previously served as governor of Bayelsa State with 2 separate terms in office. The 1999 Constitution, as amended, stipulates a maximum of 2 terms, or 8 years, for a governor. Silva's aspirations for a 3rd term as governor would have extended his time in office to 9 years, violating the constitutional term limits. Number 2, precedent in Supreme Court case. The judgment drew upon a precedent established in the Supreme Court case of Marua versus Inyaku. This landmark case emphasized the importance of adhering to constitutional term limits for elected officials. The court underscored that the Constitution cannot be stretched to elongate the statutory period for serving as a governor. Number 3, oath of office taken twice. Uncontroverted evidence presented in court showed that Silva had taken the oath of office as Bayelsa State governor on 2 separate occasions. His double inauguration ceremonies demonstrated his prior service as governor. Number 4, challenge by APC chieftain. The disqualification stemmed from a lawsuit filed by a prominent APC chieftain, Mr. Demesoyefa Kolomo. Kolomo challenged Silva's eligibility based on his previous terms in office, questioning his qualification for another term. Number 5, contradictory terms. Silva argued in his defense that he had only occupied the office of governor once, citing his election in May 2008. However, this claim contradicted the evidence presented in court, which established that he had indeed served 2 non-consecutive terms. Now, that is one major conversation we want to look into, as well as other issues right here on VOP Politics. And I'm not alone to talk about this. I actually have joining us virtually Barrister Eze Eluche. He is a legal practitioner, a social commentator, and of course, you know, an analyst as well. And right here as well in the studio, I have Peter Anosike. Peter Anosike is an author. He's also a political analyst and a social affairs commentator, also a development planner. Ms. Anosike, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Now, I'm going to start with Barrister Eze Eluche because he has the right profile to actually talk about this particular situation. Barrister Eze Eluche, welcome to VOP Politics.
Oh, thank you very much for having me in your studios.
Barrister Eze Eluche, is it surprising to hear what Timi Silva intends to do? The court has actually said, based on the evidence presented by the person who filed this case against him, that he has actually served in 2 terms. Silva intends to serve again. What's your take on political office holders wanting to stay onto power, regardless of, you know, whatever controversy they may stem up from that?
Well, what the Constitution provides is that any executive, whether it is president or a governor of a state, can serve for 2 terms or 4 years each, which is looks at a maximum of 8 years. There. Now, whether he served part of the term, like if he has already served for 4 years, one straight 4 years, and then another 2 years, is he entitled or qualified to contest again? This is an issue that maybe the Supreme Court will have to adjudicate upon to give a definitive resolution. There is nothing wrong with, in my own view, because one of the examples of this was in the case of Goodluck Jonathan. If you recollect, Goodluck Jonathan was first sworn in as president upon the death of Yaradua.
Mm-hmm.
Then thereafter he won an election and served a 4-year term. Then after that 4-year term, he tried to go back for a second term. Now, would he have exceeded the constitutional limits of 8 years? That's 2 terms of 8 years. Probably, if he had served out the second term, if he had won. But it's for the court to now determine whether there can be a fraction of a tenure, such that if he had served 2 years earlier, can he complete the second 2 years at a later tenure? So it's still something I believe that Silva is right. He will have to advance to the Supreme Court so that the Supreme Court will give a definitive response to that. because we've not had an instance where the court has determined. If it had been two different tenures beginning for 4 years each, that would have been a different case. But in this instance, Silva has served one full 4-year tenure and has served part of another tenure, less than 4 years. So perhaps he wants to go and complete the 4-year period. That is what the courts will determine during appeal processes.
That's quite interesting when you consider it. But apparently, one of the terms or one of the conditions was that he has taken an oath of office twice. If you have taken an oath of office twice, are you meant to take another oath of office to serve for 4 years?
Well, the oath of office, the constitution was very clear on two terms of 4 years each. So 4 years in 2 terms means 8 years. Okay. I'm saying these are the issues which the court will have to determine. And the ceremonial taking of oath is not actually, it is ceremonial, but it's important that you take something that is very ripe for the Supreme Court to give a definitive resolution to when the time comes.
So that's based on what you just said now.
Yes, it depends on the arguments that will be advanced by counsels for both parties. So I think it will enrich our jurisprudence, and we look forward to what the outcome of that matter will be.
All right, Barrister Ezaluche, thank you so much, but I would implore you to please stay on call. Also, as President Bola Tinubu braces the heaviest prize yet for his fraudulent and contradictory political history, Nigerians have wondered how he managed to ride a well-documented pattern of constitutional violations in the nation's highest office. Now, besides the highly publicized headache that Mr. Tinubu faced when Gani Fayomi tried unsuccessfully to make him pay for lying habitually under oath to become governor in Lagos in 1999, the administration of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan also tried to send Mr. Tinubu to jail on the strength of that late 90s perjury in January 2011, but abruptly backed down, according to copies of the federal information. This was obtained by the People's Gazette. Also, the Nigerian leader has come under drastic public humiliation in recent weeks after his main political rival, Atiku Abubakar, opened a legal battle that successfully exposed yet another case of forgery, this time in relation to the academic certificate Mr. Tinubu submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission to certify his eligibility to run for president. Now, Atiku has now submitted the evidence obtained by way of a federal court subpoena in the United States to the Nigerian Supreme Court. Now, since the evidence is coming late, Mr. Abubakar's lawyers are trying to convince the court to accept it and notify Mr. Tinubu's presidency as if he did not participate in the February 25, 2023 presidential elections in the first place under Section 137, subsection 1J of the Nigerian Constitution as amended in 2010. And it also specifically stated that no one would be legitimately elected president of Nigeria if the president or the person has presented a forged certificate to the Independent National Electoral Commission. So if the push to enter the proof against Tinubu is successful at the Supreme Court, the school has already disowned the certificate under oath. His administration could be the shortest elected government in the nation's history at barely 6 months. However, questions are also raised as to whether it should even have occurred in the first place, considering how the president's family background and professional career have been largely shrouded in secrecy. Were not entirely found to be fabricated. There have been pensions and also other statements and, in regard or relation to this particular statement by the president concerning his academic record. But the question has also been that while Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was the president at the time, documents show that Jonathan filed and at the same time withdrew criminal charges against Tinubu for submitting a fake academic claim to INEC in 1999. Why did Jonathan do that at the time? What happened? Barrister Eze, the question is for you.
Yes, well, I mean, I will not be in a position, I was not part of that government. I mean, they know what best. The Attorney General of the country has all powers to decide to continue or to withdraw an action. So why he withdrew that suit is best known to him. Only he can can address that issue. But the fact now remains that no matter how long you tell a lie, one day the lie will be exposed. So perhaps that is the unfortunate circumstance Mr. Bola Tinubu now finds himself. is now going to be exposed at the highest level, where the entire world has become aware of this issue. You will agree with me that prior to now, it was just a national matter, a domestic affair. But in this instance, the whole world has now focused attention on this. The whole world is now looking at what will transpire. The whole world has followed the depositions in Chicago, because now it's even making headlines in newspapers in faraway Japan, China, Australia, India. They're all bearing the news that, look, the person who occupies the office of the President of Nigeria submitted a forged document to INEC. So I wonder how he will feel now. He will have felt better if the initial actions by Rufai and the Jonathan administration had succeeded, because him and Nigeria would have been spared the ensuing embarrassment. But well, like we all say, it is always better late than never. So it is in the Nigerians' best interest that this is addressed. And I keep on saying that is why we must always give applause and accolades to the Abubakar Atiku and his team for fighting tenaciously to ensure that this fraud is exposed. Because what it now means, the world will now realize that Nigerians are not all fraudsters, that there are Nigerians who will stick by the truth and who will expose fraud no matter how high it has stayed or how long it has stayed. So that is what is going on now. And everybody looks on, and as the Supreme Court panel gets set up, we will look at it, and then Nigerians will be watching to know whether they accept the Chicago State University depositions. Because once they do, then the judgment is as good as done, because the fact in that deposition is very clear that a forged document was submitted to INEC. And the law again, the Constitution again is very, very clear about what happens to those who present forged documents to INEC. Under section 137(1)J, they are not even qualified to contest, which means that the entire APC presidential team will be declared invalid, and their swearing in or whatever will be deemed null and void. So we're going to watch, Nigerians are watching with a deep apprehension to know what transpires as the Supreme Court panel sits and hears into this matter.
All right, Barrister, I want to read something to you, which goes back way back in possibly 1998. Now, Mr. Tinubu had affirmed in an affidavit sworn before the Ikeja Division of the High Court of Lagos State on December 29, 1998, that he attended St. Paul Aruloya and Children Home School Ibadan, leaving both in 1964. Subsequently, he listed attending Government College Ibadan from 1965 to 1968. Now, as part of the affidavit, Mr. Tinubu said he attended Richard Daley College, Chicago, from 1969 to 1971. He said he obtained a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Chicago in 1976, having been enrolled in 1972. After bagging a degree in economics from the University of Chicago, Mr. Tinubu said he enrolled at Chicago State University in 1977, graduating in 1979. That's what the affidavit showed. Further in the affidavit, Mr. Tinubu said he became a certified public accountant in 1979. Subsequently, he worked as a financial consultant at Arthur Andersen Deloitte Haskins and actually sells until 1986, when he joined Mobile Nigeria until 1992. However, according to his affidavit, he joined politics in 1992 and was elected senator for Lagos West on July 4, 1992. Now, you do recall that these were part of the things that Lee Ganifa at the time, brought out when he wanted to take it at the court. What's your take on the inconsistency on what he swore in his affidavit? Remember that for Deloitte, they have said they do not recognize anyone of that name, and that no one of that particular name actually worked for them in Deloitte. So where and how did the president work with Deloitte? How come nobody in that department can remember that someone like him worked there?
Well, the fact is that this man's story keeps changing at every point. When he said he went to St. John's School, Aruloya, the Lagosians have denied that school doesn't even exist. He claims to have attended a secondary school in Ibadan. The school itself does not admit or know him. His university is now changing. The school he mentioned is not what is now in the files of Chicago State University. So the fact is clearly that this man's trajectory, the name Bola Tinubu, we're not even sure of who's the name he bears.
So are we
The
saying that
parentage.
President Bola Tinubu lied under oath about his primary, secondary, and tertiary institution?
Now, it is not I am saying. What you have just read is what is contained in an oath he deposed. And since those facts are lies, they are falsehoods, it is clear that Mr. Bola Tinubu lied under oath. And it is not even the first time. It has been a serial. It has become part of his DNA. The worrisome part of it is actually this. Nigerians are not even sure who this person is. In fact, there are names which are being churned up that he's from Osun State, that the Tinubu family in Lagos have denied him. They don't know this character. So who really is this man who is ruling over Nigeria? That is what should worry Nigerians. And there are several surnames which have been peddled along. There is Yakini, Shangodele, and so on, many other names. But clearly, this man, before he got the certificate from Chicago State University, there was no Bola Tinubu who is male. The one that is known to Chicago State University is a female. And so the problem is we now have an identity crisis.
All right, thank you, Barrister Eza. I'll also come to you. Mr. Peter Anosike. So, the president, with what we have seen, with the background history we've read, because you recall that all of these statements right here in the open were based on oath. He swore it on oath. If the president lied brazenly, confidently on the oath, what does that say for his future in politics? Do you think that with this, the Supreme Court will overlook whatever has been presented as evidence?
Well, it depends on the credibility of the judges at the Supreme Court, because there is enough evidence to show that there was forgery and that the man, Bola Tinubu, has been forging his certificates right from the primary school up to the university. So it depends on the integrity of the judges at the Supreme Court.
Mr.
Because
Anosike,
Chicago University said that the certificate that was given to INEC did not emanate from them, which simply means that it was forged. If I say that I don't have responsibility, or this thing didn't come from me, it means you forged it.
Mr. Anosike, I want you to see the picture I'm trying to create here, all right? The president feels like the critics are so much haranguing him on this particular certificate situation. According to his team, he believes that a lot of people too, occupying the House of Representatives seat and the National Assembly seat, and possibly other past presidents or governors may be guilty of this.
No.
But I'm heading to somewhere. He possibly did not think this through, because he knows that there are some things that are pardonable, or possibly the system that is meant to just go along in this part of the world. And over, we've been seeing updates on this particular CSU certificate controversy. And while the president had pleaded that he doesn't want this certificate situation to go beyond where it is in this country, by asking the court in the United States to please stay in actually handing over his academic records to Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party concerning the irreparable harm that he said. Does it mean that we do not know anything genuinely about our president, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Well, we have been treated with it. We didn't know who this man is, and it has been working for him up till this point. But mind you, if there are other people at the House of Reps, at the Senate that have forged certificate, they didn't say that everybody must be caught at the same time. That's why that provision was made. Others understand me? Even if everybody in the House of Reps has forged certificate, everybody shouldn't go to court at the same time. So the person who we're interested now is our #1 citizen, who is the image of our country.
Okay.
And we need to know who our president is.
Barrister Eze, is it safe to say that we have a president that cannot be identified? We're seeing a face, but we don't know the face of the person who is our president. Are we saying that we
Oh,
are being governed by an individual who literally has no authentic history? I want to understand what this actually entails. And secondly, based on what Atiku Abubakar said while he organized a press conference, I think that was last week, Wednesday, he said that there are certain conditions to be met for new evidence to be filed at the Supreme Court. Can you highlight,
That was
please?
Pastor
That was
Kano
last,
Kano.
that was Kalu Kalu, yes, but that was while the Atiku Abubakar press conference was ongoing. Can you help us explain what those conditions are? What are these conditions that can enable the Supreme Court admit new
Fresh
evidence,
evidence.
fresh evidence, something new?
well, like I said earlier, we have a Mr. Bola Tinubu, who we are not sure that is his name.
Okay.
Because, for instance, even his Wikipedia page is being altered as we are speaking. A new name, Adekunle, has been added to it. So we have a man who, before his claim to Chicago State University, all of his previous claims as to education, as to his existence, have been proved to be false. He mentioned Dalit College in Chicago, which is a falsehood. He mentioned St. John's Primary School, Arolo, a falsehood. He mentioned Government College, Lagos, a falsehood. And if you recollect that this was in Western Nigeria, where since the time of Awolowo, there has been free education. So he cannot claim that poverty made him not to go to school. And records have been existing for over 60 years for education. So who is this man? And like I said earlier, different names have been peddled, even state of origin. If you recollect, there was a time when Mr. Odumaki, the late Odumaki, Yinka Odumaki, wrote a treatise on Mr. Tinubu, claimed that where his mother was buried in Osun State, that he comes from Osun State. So these are facts which are now emanating, I imagine.
Okay.
If before, when he was in Lagos State as a governor, he could muzzle up Lagos, it is impossible to do that with all Nigeria. Because voices will shout from the east, west, north, and south. And there's no way to tie up all Nigerians. It is impossible. So the truth and the facts must emerge in this case. With regards to what are the conditions for the Supreme Court to accept new evidence, it is under Order 2, Rule 12 of the Supreme Court proceedings, which gives the Supreme Court the powers to, at any time during when a case is before it, to accept new witnesses or new documents to be brought into a case, so long as the court determines that the new evidence which will be adduced, whether it's oral or documentary, is in the interest of justice. The Supreme Court can, under Order 2, Rule 12 of its orders, of its proceedings, admit new evidence. And it has sole discretion to admit or not admit. And then, so it is now based on what the panel of the Supreme Court determines. If the evidence produced before it by the PDP team is deemed sufficient, it can accept it and admit it into evidence. It need not even hear from the APC team when it's admitting it into evidence. But it is at liberty to also ask the APC what their views are on the new evidence that will be adduced. So, like, Nigerians are already aware of it, and it's in the public domain. So Nigerians already know and have an idea what they expect for the Supreme Court to do. Not too long ago, it was very unfortunate to hear a senior advocate of Nigeria, Olisabakoba, say that it was wrong for Nigerians to discuss.
That was on Monday. That was October 9th.
Yes,
He made that statement. So he was ashamed of legal practitioners.
It is now legal practitioners are ashamed of Olisabakoba for making such a careless statement. The reason is this: sometime in April this year, Olisabakoba had the effrontery to say that Nigerian Supreme Court it makes silly decisions, and even went as far as to use vulgar language to address the justice of the Supreme Court over decisions that they were making that he did not feel comfortable with. He mentioned specifically the Supreme Court judgment that allowed the current Senate President Akpabio to be a senator, and that also allowed the former Senate President Lawal to be on the Senate. Mr. Akpabio used very derogatory and insulting language to try to diminish the Supreme Court. Now, what I believe is going on is this is a man who used this same pedestal of media to climb to the zenith where he is now. and he does not want other lawyers to also do the same thing and inform the masses. But it's not going to work for him because the fact is, this is already issues before the public domain, and we are going to discuss it. And it is we who are ashamed of what he's uttering now.
Barrister Richard, the reason why we need legal practitioners to help analyze most of these issues that could be legally oriented is because legal practitioners already have the formal profession to help give us a legal perspective on what most of these legal issues would be. For example, they can give us a projection of what could be decided at the court. They can tell us precisely most of these legal technical terms and its implication, and possibly what the verdict could be. So why do you think the former NBA president would have contradicted that by saying that the legal practitioners ought to know better than talking about it in media forums or media forms, knowing full well that the case had been taken to the Supreme Court? He said it was better for it not to be talked about until the Supreme Court gives its judgment. Do you think that this same NBA president you just talked about, based on what he said earlier and what he's saying now, that something has exchanged hands, possibly from the ruling administration?
Well, I don't know what might have exchanged hands or if whatever, but what I'm just telling you is the reality that he himself, Mr. Abakoba, previously, prior to now, he was a popular commentator on legal issues that were before courts. And he also has made several commentaries on these issues. But the fact is this, with the way things have gone online, virtually all Nigerians are aware of these issues. There is now a plethora of experts to approach, to give advice or to discuss these matters. Unlike before, when it was just a handful of legal practitioners. Now the coast is wider and the information is more timely. Like, for instance, when the depositions were filed in Chicago, Illinois, the same day, less than 1 hour late, many Nigerians already had copies of it. Unlike in times past, when it would take only a few people to have access to it. So perhaps his angst is that he has lost that personal access. Now it is more open to more practitioners. And it is wrong for him to say that, to use derogatory words on lawyers, particularly when he himself has used highly insulting words. And the language he used was that some Supreme Court have silly decisions. And you don't do that to the Supreme Court, for goodness sake. This is the apex court of the land. He was talking of those who should go before the disciplinary committee of the bar. It is people like him who use such words on the Supreme Court that should go before the disciplinary committee of the bar, and not those who are just trying to educate Nigerians on legal issues. It is the right of Nigerians to get to know about legal issues. We are not definitively saying this is how the Supreme Court will decide, but we're saying these are the issues it will decide, and these are the likely outcomes of such matters. It is left to the honorable justices in the court of the panel to make up their minds, and then thereafter Nigeria will begin to now assess how the court has performed. That is how it works.
All right, Barrister, as I'll come to you. Mr. Peter Anosike, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, today spoke on the discrepancies in his senior school certificate examination. Now, it was quite, let me use the word daunting. It was surprising when I saw this information. Now, one of the aides of the former Vice President, Dele Momodu, gave the clarification on a post on his X account. Momodu stated that the clarification was necessary following the allegations of forgery against Atiku by members of the All Progressives Congress. In fact, he noted that some members of the ruling party had questioned the name Sadiq Abubakar in Atiku's WAEC certificate as against his other credentials. Momodu said he forwarded the accusations to the former vice president, who also provided an answer for the discrepancy. And this is what Momodu wrote. I will read it out. The APC busybodies have been bombarding me with allegations of forgery against my principal, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar GCON, which I immediately forwarded to him, and here is his copious response. Yes, I used Sadiq Abubakar to sit for my WAEC, and after passing my exams, I went to swear an affidavit to say I am the same person as Atiku Abubakar. I went to ABU as Atiku Abubakar and passed my exams as Atiku Abubakar. Interviewed as Atiku Abubakar by the Federal Civil Service Commission and hired into the Customs Service as Atiku Abubakar. So where is the forgery there? Can the APC, social media bullies, forward the deluge of questions and speculation to their boss and get instant and direct response? So here is the case, or rather, here is the question. After this whole entire situation with Atiku pushing forward to prove that the certificate tendered to INEC by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was not authenticated or forged, we also heard that the WAEC certificate that Atiku Abubakar presented is possibly forged as well because of the name he put there.
You cannot say forged. It's a
No, that is what
name.
the critics are saying. That is the, you know, the APC stalwarts, representatives of the administration are alleging that because there was a different name on that WAEC certificate, there is a tendency that he forged it. And now Atiku responded immediately. In other words, when the president was asked, he refused to respond immediately concerning the fact that there are instances being proven, supposedly, that your certificate that you tendered to INEC is actually forged. Rather, the response of the legal team of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was to write for a stay that that particular document should not be divulged. So in other words, do we see more attacks coming on Atiku Abubakar because of his journey to make sure that this particular certificate forgery is confirmed?
Well, for me, if you looked at page 27 of the Sun newspaper today, you will see one full page, change of name.
Okay.
What Atiku did happens. Understand? An instance, I used to put Anosike Peter Onyedikachi.
Okay.
I now decided to remove Onyedikachi from my name. I went to the court, swear, then did my change of name. It happens everywhere. And because Atiku had nothing to hide, that's why he reviewed the information. So his own case is very straightforward. He has nothing to hide. If Tinubu messed his case up by saying, don't release my results, don't release my identity. Understand? So these are two different issues. What they are now doing is, if you, in the 80s or 70s, they are in the Benue, we have Godwin Dabo and one Taka. Then they used to say, you Dabo me, I Taka you. So these are two different issues. They have no relationship at all. Article 1 is straightforward. It happens. People do change of name. Understand? People do change of name.
So why were these supposed social media bullies, as alleged by Dede Momodu here, so quick to point out that that WAEC certificate was forged?
They are looking for something to hold on. They are looking for something to hold on, but it cannot sell.
Would we call this an era of forged certificates? Is this an era where we are seeing stories of forged certificates? Forged certificate
in the case of Atiku.
Okay.
He just said, yes, he admitted.
All right.
I took my WAEC with Sadiq Abubakar and later swear an oath and changed to Atiku Abubakar. I went to ABU with the name Atiku Abubakar. I got my job in the Federal Civil Service with Atiku Abubakar. He didn't hide anything.
Okay. So, Barrister Esa Eluche, if indeed the president had nothing to hide, as he said, why did he take him time to actually respond to questions being asked concerning his certificate, just like what Atiku Abubakar has done? If you know, you very well believe that this particular document is true, well authenticated, you can actually present evidence as to the discrepancies that were noticed on that particular academic record or certificate. Why did it take the president a very long time? Why did it take the president that emotional appeal at Nancy Maldonado to actually put a stay on the release of his academic records to Atiku Abubakar?
Well, the fact is, I don't think Mr. Bola Tinubu ever said he had nothing to hide. He clearly stated that he had everything to hide, that actually if the courts will order the release of those documents, it will cause him irreparable harm if Nigerians get to know the truth. That is why he has been resisting and dragging out the process for so long. So he knows he has things to hide. And it is those things that he is hiding that is proving impossible and difficult to hide now. And there's no hiding place. Like I said earlier, you can hide evil, you can do it for a very long time, but after so many days for the thief, one day for the owner. So the day for consequences is approaching. And Nigerians have already seen the consequence. The consequence in the fact that, one, Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu submitted a forged document to INEC to qualify for the elections. Two, the President Mr. Bola Tinubu went to a school that was non-existent. 3, the school he claimed to have, university he claimed to have entered, the person that entered it was a female, a U.S. Resident who went to a U.S. high school. Even the so-called graduation he claims to have done from the school has now been exposed as false, because a deeper insight into the positions really proves the fact that the school said there were certain courses which he must clear before he graduates. And throughout the transcripts, which are attached to the positions, those courses were not passed, which means Mr. Bola Tinubu did not graduate from the university. And as we speak now, that university is under criminal investigation by the United States FBI, because the positions has revealed so many sordid details. The fact that this school has been a degree mill, that a lot of illegalities are going on there. So what is going on in Nigeria now is unveiling so many more facts, not just here, but also in the America and several other places. And it's a good yes.
Is it possible that due to this whole situation, right, that this certificate saga had exposed, that the school may actually be regretting right now to have anything to do with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Oh, certainly. But I'm not, in fact, from the interviews of past students of that school, it appears the school has been having this kind of criminal matters for quite a while. And in fact, one of their former presidents of this Chicago State University served a prison term for similar offenses. So the school is not one of those, it's not an Ivy League school. It's not one of the highbrow schools. It is like a sleazy school where you can go and do all sorts. But this one, this issue of Bola Tinubu is bringing it to the fore, that the whole world has seen the rot behind that school. And I'm sure this will be the end of that institution, the way things are going.
Pastor Eze, earlier on today, the leadership of the Labour Party spoke on the possibility of the presidential candidate of the party, Peter Obi, working with President Bola Tinubu. In fact, according to the party's leadership, there is no way Peter Obi will be tempted to work with Tinubu's administration. The party's position was stated in 2 separate interviews with the National Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party, Obiora Ifo, and the National Legal Advisor of the Labour Party, Kainde Edu. The National Legal Advisor of the Labour Party insisted that such is a figment of the imagination and it can never come to reality, reiterating that Peter Obi has already made his stance known. He said, and I want to read it out to you, "I think Obi has something he is pursuing, especially when we are sure we won the election. So it will be out of place for us to now say we want to work with this government. As far as Labour Party is concerned, we are waiting for the Supreme Court to set aside the decision of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal that will pronounce Obi as the winner. That's what we are waiting for. This is why we cannot be talking about Obi, somebody who is the owner of the mandates, working with somebody who is a pretender to the office. Until we see to the end of this case at the Supreme Court, it is not over." He also insisted that Obi cannot be distracted by such a notion as he is presently focused on reclaiming his mandate from the Apex Court, stating that they are still in the process of reclaiming the stolen mandate through their appeal at the Supreme Court, and there is no way their candidate can be seen working for this government. However, for now, he is focused on the appeal at the Apex Court. In what manner do you think this supposed statement or rumor could have come out that there is a tendency that Peter Obi may actually work with this administration? Do you see this as another distraction? Do you see this coming from the camp of the All Progressives Congress, or somebody just decided to put this out there, possibly to hear what the Labour Party has to say?
As time goes on, there will be more distractions from the APC. Now, when you have a president or the leader of their party who is neck deep in fraud, identity theft, we expect such kind of stories coming out from that angle. So even discussing it is a pure waste of time. It's not warranted. And the fact is that the Labour Party has effectively responded that it's not possible. And likewise, I'm sure the PDP will also respond in like manner. It is not possible. More of such rumors will keep on flying, that there are alliances, that they are stopped, but it's all distractions. The focus of Nigeria should be what has happened? Why did Mr. Bola Tinubu submit a forged certificate to INEC? Who is he really? What is his name? Since it has been proved that the primary school, the secondary school, even the university he attended are all shrouded in mystery. So who is he? What is his true names? What is his true identity? It is quite unfortunate, and it can only happen in Nigeria, that somebody can get to such a high office and we are not so sure of who he is. We're not even sure at all of who he is. Even the age, there are about 4 different dates of birth. None of them is even, we're not even sure which one is true. So the unfortunate thing is that with this, Nigeria continues to have a very terrible image. If the person who is leading the country is mired in such inconsistencies and criminalities, then the world will continue to believe that virtually all Nigerians are involved. That is the beauty of what we are doing, why all Nigerians must show revulsion against this act of criminality, because the world will know that this is not who we are, that we are good people, we are pious people, that we are upright people, that it's only the minuses in us who come out in this negative way.
Barrister Ezra Eluche, do you think with what is currently at play, what is currently going on, that possibly the Independent National Electoral Commission would be more proactive in vetting documents, academic documents, or whatever records are given to them or prerequisites given to them by any of these political candidates vying for office? Do you think this would be a strong lesson? Because it's obvious that INEC did not do its due diligence in this regards to screening academic records, documents sent out to them by individuals who are vying for political offices.
Not just INEC can do its due diligence, but the issue with INEC, this current INEC, is the leadership. Mahmoud Yakubu has proved a disgrace to his profession and to the office. He actually even swore in Mr. Tinubu unlawfully and against constitutional guidelines. So it's not a matter of INEC doing their due diligence. They have always been doing that. After all, it was the same INEC that was headed by Humphrey Mosu that delivered a very upright election. So it depends on the leadership. INEC will always know what to do at the right time. So the problem, like I keep on saying, is the fact that one element, Mr. Mahmoud Yakubu, who claims to be a professor, was the one that presided over the fraud that occurred on 25th of February 2023. And I wonder what kind of elections this same character, Mahmoud Yakubu, will be presiding over with the coming elections in the 3 states, Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa, on the 11th of November. A character that has proved unworthy, that has proved to even renege on what he has promised. He said there will be IREP, there will be instantaneous upload of results, and all those things were proved to be lies. So it is not, INEC has always been doing due diligence. They have staff all over the country, but the problem with this particular INEC is that there is a leadership which is absolutely corrupt and inept. That is why we are where we are with this Mahmoud Yakubu-led INEC.
Barrister Ezra, let me take you back to a statement you just made now. You said that INEC unconstitutionally swore in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Meanwhile, the Presidential Election Petition Court actually stated that INEC has every right to either declare results, pronounce results, conduct elections as they deem fit, literally stating that INEC is autonomous to do as it pleases. So what you're saying now is in contradiction to what the Presidential Election Petition Court said. Barrister Ezra, are you still with me?
Yes, I am very...
So I'm throwing it out to you that one of the rulings of the Presidential Election Petition Court stated that INEC did no wrong by installing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a president, or rather naming him or confirming him as a president, by actually collating results manually when there was a supposed glitch on the IREP portal. They cleared INEC in that regard by saying that INEC had the autonomy to do as it pleases concerning the conduct of the elections. I'm saying that the Presidential Election Petition Court is set something contrary to what you just stated. You said that INEC unconstitutionally placed the president there. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the judgment of this particular Presidential Election Petition Tribunal has been one of the most how will I, the words, I'm short of those words now. It's one of the decisions of the court that has been most vilified by lawyers from all angles. It has more grounds of appeal against their judgment, because virtually every aspect of the judgment of this Election Tribunal has been a disaster. From the issue of not allowing witnesses that were brought in on subpoena, to the issue of the Abuja, 25% of votes in Abuja, to the issue of the double candidature of Mr. Shetima, all issues were decided by that Presidential Election Tribunal has been faulted by lawyers on both divides.
Barrister Ezeluchi, are we saying that the judges at the Presidential Election Petition Court were compromised?
I'm not saying that they are compromised, but I'm saying that on law and jurisprudence, their decisions amount to below par. They were very much below par, and we are hopeful that the Supreme Court will be able to put justice in its proper perspective. As for compromise or whatever, I'm not aware of that. But what we are looking at is the words that came out from their mouth, the judgment, their decisions. That is what is far, far below par and very shocking to all practitioners of law in the country.
Meaning that the judges fell low in your expectations of what you thought they should have pronounced during the prediction
Definitely.
Of the petition tendered.
Without an iota of doubt, they fell far below par of expectations of the Nigerian Constitution, of Nigerian jurisprudence.
Hello, Barrister Eze, are you still with us? Okay, we seem to have... Barrister Eze, are you still with us?
Very much so.
Okay, yeah, you were saying something before you went off a little bit there.
Fell very much below par of the Nigerian, the estimation and expectations of Nigerian lawyers. The judgment is what Nigerians really earnestly hope, that the Supreme Court will restore the dignity of our law by throwing it into the trash bin where it rightly belongs.
Do you think that the Supreme Court will give a contradictory ruling to what the Presidential Election Petition Court did, to what those judges actually gave? Do you think that we would see something different from what was given there?
Well, we are hoping that when they go through the entire judgment of that Presidential Election Tribunal, they will be able to see what other Nigerians are seeing, particularly with the issue of discountenancing the testimony of witnesses on subpoena, because they did not front load their statement on oaths.
Okay.
Particularly with the issue of the Abuja 25%, the issue of the 460,000 naira penalty for feature that was made, and also the issue of the double candidature. The issues are plentiful, and we are hopeful that the Supreme Court will look at these issues dispassionately and with justice and do the right thing. Because what the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal did was, I keep on repeating again, below par, below expectations.
Barrister Ezeluchi, I want to say thank you for giving us your time right here on VOP Politics. I know you do have a lot to do, but I'll let you go now. So the program actually continues here with Mr. Peter Anosike. Thank you once again for staying with us.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
All right. Up next on VOP Politics, London-based Financial Times publication says there are signs of President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms not going as planned. In an editorial, the publication noted that although Tinubu started well by removing fuel subsidy and moving towards a market-driven exchange, events in the past 4 months show that more work has to be done. We'll be right back after this break. Mr. Peter Anosike, removing a costly fuel subsidy and in shifting towards a market-driven exchange rate, which has sharply weakened the previously overvalued currency, he has gone some way towards persuading investors he is serious about reform. You recall yesterday when we had this conversation on VOP Politics, when we were talking about fuel subsidy, where I told you that Kerry said that there is no fuel subsidy at the moment, and that the president was the one that actually helped the economy basically by announcing that there is no more fuel subsidy, or fuel subsidy has been removed. Well, based on this particular information, These are the signs to show concerning the weakened currency, and that in the 4 months ever since fuel subsidy was removed, the report concerning the current state of the Nigerian economy. Why I'm bringing this to the fore is because I do know that this is your field, actually, when we talk about economic development and economic strategy, especially when it has to do with making income. Now, the report noted that the removal of Godwin Emefiele, the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, raised eyebrows due to its unconventional nature, giving the permission of political reprisal. It obviously feels that the removal of former Governor Emefiele seemed to be out of vengeance concerning the whole Naira New Design policy that was introduced by him at the time, whereby, of course, there couldn't be vote buying and there couldn't be no means to bribe anybody to vote for any individual. Okay, so here is also another thing. On how the new CBN management can stabilize the financial system, the report said that the new CBN leadership will most likely increase the interest rates to curb inflation. So here is what it said further. Markets consider Cardoso, that is a former Citibank Nigeria chair who is currently the CBN governor, to be a sound appointment. However, the same cannot be said of all of Tinubu's peaks. Okay? The incoming governor will probably need to raise rates at the next policy meeting to establish his inflation-busting credentials. Tinubu must restore institutional independence by leaving the bank to get on with its job. In other areas, the president needs to be more active and more articulate. Do you think the president is not active or more articulate when it comes to his economic policies and certain individuals he's been placing in government positions?
Well, the truth is that there's a very big difference between being busy and being productive.
Okay.
So Tinubu is being busy, but it's not being productive. That's a fact. And I was shocked for Financial Times to say that he started well by removing a subsidy. The subsidy was hastily done. He shouldn't have removed it at that point in time. A lot of things should have been done before removing that subsidy.
Why would you say you were disappointed? You do recall that during the president's live broadcast, what he said at the time was that the subsidy that was meant to benefit the average Nigerian or the poor Nigerian or the regular man is not actually benefiting them. It is still the same rich, elitist individuals that are benefited from fuel subsidy, and that is basically why he removed it. The president also, at the time, pleaded with Nigerians to understand why he is coming from that angle. That the reason is because the National Treasury had been drained by the greed of these supposed persons, these elitist persons he mentioned, and that it was important for his economy to start off by eroding them out of such places so that they can see a profit margin increase. So if that was the reason behind the removal of fuel subsidy, how are you surprised that the Financial Times actually congratulated that effort? Don't you think that that was what they had at the back of their minds when, they wrote this report on the benefits for removing fuel subsidy?
Well, Financial Times is not in Nigeria. And the reason why he removed that subsidy, he said that he wants to favor the poor. But who are suffering now? The poor who he seems to favor are the ones that are suffering the removal of subsidy. The subsidy removal was certainly done. A lot of things should have been put in. There should have been measures to cushion the effect of that subsidy. Because he didn't put that measures, that's why 99% of Nigerians are suffering at the moment. So he's busy, but he's not being productive.
So are we saying that the policies that he has implemented ever since he assumed office are policies on paper? Possibly he doesn't understand what the policy implementation means because of the inconsistency in terms of the economic trajectory.
What he's trying to do is trial and error, which has not worked. That's why under 2-3 weeks, policies will be changing. The unification of Naira that he tried to do was a failure. So he's just doing superficial things. Nothing substantial is going on. And this is turning on the prices of things in the market. Our exchange rate, our foreign reserve has lost 814 billion naira in 3 months.
Okay, so here is something interesting that developed. The federal government will restart the trader money scheme in November, with each beneficiary getting 50,000 naira to support their business. While the interest-free loan scheme for traders started in 2018 has been on hold for some time, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Mrs. Betta Edu, said the government is set to relaunch it. Now, Betta Edu confirmed that the scheme has not been scrapped. That is what she's saying. But it had been on a stalemate since 2018. This is what she said, and I'll read out to you. Now, for the first set, which we are starting in November, we are selecting one big market per senatorial district. That is 109 markets, and we are going into the markets, capturing the traders in their shops in the market. Unlike the 10,000 naira given to traders in the earlier phases, there is more money for the beneficiaries. Mr. Peter Anosike, the reason why I felt like this is quite funny when I read about it was the person who was in charge of the trader money scheme earlier or in the preceding, the administration before now, was a Vice President, former Vice President Yemi Oshibajo. Yes. At the time, the trader money, whatever, was to give about 10 million Nigerians jobs before his tenure elapses. And since then, that trader money commenced, we've not seen the evidence of what that money was used for.
Well,
since 2018 till now, we've not gotten any audits, we've not gotten any report, but rather it had been on pause. So the money that was, put in for that particular project, ever since for the period of time that it was meant to work, who has been in charge of it?
Well, trader money is one of the biggest scams of this country. Trader money is a scam because there's no audit. And it's another way of wasting resources. The 10,000 naira that Buhari administration was giving was a cost money. None of them could, you cannot invest this kind of money. You cannot take serious whatever you do not struggle for.
Ms. Anosike, you do recall how the government gave out some money during this palliative, where they were giving some household 3,000, 8,000, 10,000, along with food and a couple of things. That was basically the plan for the palliative.
Which year was that?
This recent administration now, the removal of fuel subsidy. We saw persons stretching out their hands, asking people to, when they wanted to collect the rice and the other food items and a couple of amount of money.
Which state of the country?
We saw in Kogi. We also saw in Lagos. We saw that in the news. But the funny thing is, 10,000 naira going to the markets to give persons 10,000 naira. We didn't see names written. We didn't see these individuals come back to give us testimony of the profit of that money that was used. The money that was already earmarked for that project for the period or the tenure of former President Muhammadu Buhari till when his tenure elapses, nobody has told us anything. Then there was a period of time between 2018 till possibly 2023, beginning of 2023, before the former president left, that the people in charge of that project and the monies that were allocated, did they use that money for themselves? For us, we actually hear now that trader money was actually scrapped before, but they are relaunching it.
I say that it is a very big scam. It's one of the biggest ways of siphoning our national economy. Because one, there's no accountability, there's no audition. There's no name that are written. How do you know the beneficiaries? What was the budget? You say you are going to reach 109 senatorial zones.
Yes, that's what Betta Edu is saying.
Big markets. How do you choose those markets? How much is the budget? And so it's just a very big way of wasting Nigeria resources. What they should have done is to channel this money into production. There are companies in Nigeria who need waivers, 30 years waivers, so that tax-free holidays, so that they can go into production and help in the development of the economy. No country develops by sharing money. It's like an inherited money. You cannot do anything with it.
Mr. Anosike, let me blow your mind. She said that the 50,000 naira is to support their businesses. We are not interested in party lines or any social or personal interest. We capture them in the market, and after doing so, we create a bank account just as they are being captured. The monies are sent directly from the CBN account. That's what Betta Edu said. According to her, it is a one-off interest-free loan with those who repay qualifying for another loan. While dismissing claims that the program is a political tool, the minister said elections are over, and she argued that the present government is committed to making things better for Nigerians. Now we're not in the election period, and so this time around things will go normal from the way. So who would investigate the activities that took place in the previous administration on the trader money project? Literally what she's telling us now is that the previous administration has no record of how the money that was allocated for the trader money project was utilized and disbursed. All we saw were pictures of the vice president in some instances entering markets and disbursing 10,000 naira to individuals. No auditing, no profiling, no record, no feedback, no testimonials,
no audit.
And so everybody will keep mum. Nobody will say anything. No investigation will be carried out. No set of panelists will be from the National Assembly will be put aside to investigate the financial depth.
That's how much was given.
And the individuals who were in charge of that. Nobody's going to investigate anything.
And even the recipients. So how were they choosing? So this is another scam. It is another scam that they want to do. They just want to make some people rich.
Some people rich.
Those of them in government just want to make themselves rich because one, it's a free money. You cannot invest this money. It came very easy. And it's only a few people that are going to get this money. It just like the one that Oshibanjo did. What was the outcome? Who among them improved on their businesses with it? None.
Mr. Hanosike, are we saying that with the way it is, okay, let me rephrase it. When the president came into office on May 29, he made some statements concerning his renewed hope agenda. In the aspect of economy, he said that he was going to put a team in place, technocrats actually, that would give the proper advice and create a blueprint through which there will be a re-strategizing of the Nigerian economy, uplifting it from the buried depth that the previous administration had placed it on. That's basically what the president said.
But he has even almost trying to borrow more than his predecessor.
Now, another funny thing is, one would have thought that projects like this that were initiated by his predecessor, the trader money, and other projects that has to do with poverty alleviation, providing houses and all of that, that the president would have set up a committee to investigate how monies there were utilized and spent and get to us know those who benefited from it, just like he is doing right now in the CBN. He put up a team by Jim Abazi, who is one of the topmost auditors in the country, working with one of the biggest auditing firms, to audit all the financial transactions that were carried out in the CBN within the administration of former Governor Godwin Emefiele. At the moment, they're compiling reports and giving to the president on all the banks that were giving monies, what those monies were used for, each individual, including the deputy CBN governor at the time. If the president can use such an effort to investigate the porosities and the corruption in the CBN, why didn't he take such effort to investigate other projects like this in his predecessor's administration and bring to light the anomalies that we're talking about here?
That was why Financial Times saw it as saw what is going on in CBN as a vendetta. Tinubu is fighting back. He wants to know how those new Naira notes got missing. The political parties or the candidates that were giving those monies. That's exactly what is happening in CBN. It's a vendetta, even though I'm not a fan of Emir Fende. Understand? He erred in several ways. So, but what is going on there is a vendetta. But at the end of the day, the cure is going to become more than the disease itself. Then for the trader money or for the humanitarian agency, whatever has become a conduit pipe for siphoning our income. You know, Emefiele said that Buhari instructed him to be giving the minister then 500 billion every month. What did they do with it? Nothing at all. So he has swept that under the carpet. Now appointed his own person, Better Edu, to continue with that scam. No country can survive by borrowing and spending. No country can survive by doing that. We were told that this guy is an economist, he's a strategist, he's an accountant. I've not seen any of those things in this country. So really, I'm disappointed. I thought that he would have run government differently from Buhari, because Buhari is a soldier. He had nothing to do with governance or administration. But he is still towing
the line of his predecessor.
Because this trader money is a scam. It's a very big scam that they want to enrich few of them in government.
All right. Oil prices have jumped on concerns that the situation in Israel and Gaza could disrupt output from the Middle East. Brent crude, the international benchmark, climbed by $2.25 a barrel to $86.83, while U.S. prices also rose. Israel and Palestinian territories are not oil producers, but the Middle Eastern region accounts for almost a third of global supply. Hamas' assault on Israel was the biggest escalation between the two sides for decades.
50 years.
Exactly. Western nations condemned the attacks. A spokesperson for Hamas, the Palestinian militant group, disclosed to the British Broadcast Corporation that the group had direct backing for the move from Iran, one of the world's largest oil producers. I don't know if those of you who are watching this program at the moment, if you understand international politics at play. Now, here it is. Iran has denied its involvement in the assault at a UN Security Council meeting in New York on Sunday. Now, here it is. Iranian President Ephraim Raisi has expressed support for the attack. The president expressed support for the attack, but denied that they're not supporting the attack by Palestine on Gaza in Israel. Now, guess what? On Monday, Israel ordered U.S. oil giant Chevron to pause production at the Tamar natural gas field off the country's northern coast, which is within range of rocket fire from the Gaza Strip. The country's energy ministry, which has closed the field during previous periods of unrest, said there was enough fuel from other sources to meet Israel's energy needs. Israel's largest offshore gas field, Leviathan, continues to operate as normal. Energy analysts have been disclosing lately on the outcome of the war between Israel and Palestine. Now, we do know when things like this happen and it affects all, it almost disrupts all the supply chain, Nigeria included. At the moment, some of those who actually buy this product are complaining that their depots are actually empty, they've run out of the produce. They're also complaining concerning the exchange of the dollar to the naira, that they cannot meet up with the market demand, especially with the fact that if the market is deregulated, as is being stipulated, then of course they have to increase fuel price. Ultimately, with the fight ongoing between Israel and Iran, definitely Brent crude would increase. Mr. Peter Onosike, the situation with Israel and Palestine. Look at the president of Iran, when he said at the UN Security Council that they are not supporting, or they had no hand in what the Hamas militants did.
America is investigating that at the moment.
But you do know that Hamas has come out to say they had Iranian backing. Do you think Hamas, I don't know if you've seen Israel and Palestine, it's basically a very slim door like this, something very tiny. You can actually cross through. They're crossed.
Yes, it's just one country before 1957.
That's just it. So for them to have garnered the courage to do what they did, you want to tell me that they had no backing whatsoever?
They had outside support. They were trained somewhere. They were financed somewhere. But the American FBI are currently investigating that. But let us come down to Nigeria. This war in Gaza is going to expose the NNPC, who say that there's no subsidy. Because if there's no subsidy, by now, the price of petrol should have gone up. So it's going to, I know that they will be panicking at the moment.
Mr. Nosike, who is owner of Duke Oil?
Of
Duke Oil.
Duke Oil.
Yes, it's actually located in the US, the parent company, and that is owned by Abacare, the NNPC. Sure, at the moment.
Well, most of them are into oil. They are making money from oil. That's why they don't want our refineries to work.
Are we saying that our oil is being owned by certain elite individuals to themselves?
Sure.
And the profit is being made by them to the detriment
By
of
them, to the detriment of the masses. But where I'm going to this area of subsidy or no subsidy, Abacare, they say there's subsidy is gone. But Pengassin said that the government paid the subsidy in August. So this war between Hamas and Israel is going to expose them. It is going to prove to the world that the Tinubu government is still paying subsidy.
Despite several occasions, they attesting to the fact that they are not paying fuel subsidy.
Because if petroleum is left to the forces of supply and demand,
Okay.
this war will have made it that to go up. Because America has sent warships to the to the Middle East. They are bound to be caught in production. And once they are caught in production, prices go up. And once prices go up, it's going to affect every country that uses this petrol. So now these people will be panicking now that they are going to be exposed. And the truth is that this war is going to last for months.
For months.
Because with Israel won't spare them. For killing 900 Israelis, Israel will make sure that they fight them harder, which means the confusion in the Middle East will continue for a very long time. Sure.
Mr. Peter Nosike, I want to say thank you so much for being part of VOP Politics. As usual, we'll definitely continue tomorrow as we continue to analyze trending issues in the Nigerian polity. Thank you once again for staying with us. I sincerely do appreciate your intellectual input on the program. All right, we are here. We've drawn the curtain on the segment, or rather on the program today. Kindly join us tomorrow, precisely along this time, where we get to divulge and analyze issues in the national polity on several sectors, so long as they affect you and I. My name is Esther Wachuku. Kindly follow us on our social media handles at VOPTV Live. Also, on a YouTube channel, you can kindly subscribe. It's Voice of the People TV. To have yourselves an amazing evening.